has this tone in her voice. She said, well, pick Coach Carroll on the phone. And Coach Carroll gets the phone, and all I remember is just his face and his whole demeanor changing. And hangs up the phone. I was like, yeah. I go, well, she said get you on a plane and get you back to Ohio. And that was the end of my commitment to USC right there, because I was sold. I was going.
Yeah.
I mean, the glitz, the glam, everything that LA had to offer, I was a part of for that 2-day experience.
Yeah.
And my mom shut Coach Carroll down. And thank God she did.
Welcome back to The Sequel. It is The Script, Episode 2, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. His real name is Cardale Jones. His fake name is Beanie Wells. My name is Dave Holmes. All right, guys, before we talk Buckeye football, Memorial, a lot of things, I do want to say the reaction to Episode 1 was pretty good.
Pretty good.
Now, to be fair, I blocked anyone who made negative comments. I mean, I love blowing smoke up my own algorithm. So, I mean, but overall, I thought it was pretty good.
You know, I have to agree with you on that one, man. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, guys. So listen up. Just follow my lead on this second show. Just follow my lead.
Right. That's all we got to do.
Well, and follow us on Spotify, or also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Click the subscribe button right now. Episode 2 here of The Script. All right, so we're going to talk. You might notice Cardale is wearing a Memorial Tournament hat for those of you watching us on YouTube.
Oh, and pullover. Sorry.
I mean, how much money did you drop in that gift shop? That's like $300 in gear right
Easily.
there.
Listen, guys, it only comes once a year. It's very special to not just me, but the city and the state of Ohio, knowing that we got such a legendary Buckeye that created such an unbelievable course, an unbelievable event. So I support as much as I can, hence the hat and pullover. So if you guys haven't had a chance to get out to the Memorial, make it a bucket list thing. If you ever have a chance to visit, not just Ohio, but the Midwest, is worth the weekend. It's worth the day trip. I mean, Friday, it was pouring down rain, and I would say it was still probably, close to probably 60, 70,000 people there.
Yeah, it was awesome. I was there as well all 4 days during the tournament. Jack Nicklaus, the founder of the tournament, a Buckeye. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. I do want to touch on this, though, guys. If you notice, there were some Buckeyes there. I was actually walking behind Brian Hartline at one point. Didn't bother him. Other people were coming up to him, of course. I saw Caleb Downs there, Sonny Styles signing autographs. So when you guys went out to something like that, is that typical when you're an Ohio State Buckeye? If they know you, like, is it happening at the grocery store, the golf tournament, everywhere?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially when you're here in town. I mean, you're coming off a national championship, which these guys just did, went out and did something phenomenal. But, I mean, no matter what's going on in town, I don't care who's here. If you're an Ohio State Buckeye, the people want to see you. And I'm sure at the Memorial, with all those great golfers, all those other celebrities, Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles were probably some of the biggest names there right there.
Yeah, I could see Cardale in 2013 walking down the street, just fine. And then all of a sudden, now he's got the sunglasses on, the hat pulled low. Is that kind of how
that brings more attention to you. Like, who's this? For one, I'm already a little bit bigger than a normal size person. But then you got sunglasses and hat. I think you just embrace it. And I think what those guys have done to this point, which I have seen from afar, I think is one thing that they're very noticeable wherever they are. But I think the biggest thing outside of being great football players, they are great young men, and they do a lot of things in our community as well. So you have a chance to see these guys without their helmets. Now, there's a lot of guys that are star players that you won't recognize outside of a uniform, but those two guys in particular, and then clearly Coach Hartline playing here, doing great things in the NFL, and coming back being a great coach here, he's very noticeable. But those two guys in particular with Downs and Sonny Styles, you just check their track record. Look at the things they're involved in the NIL. Look at the things that they do on a charitable level. Their faces are out there all over the place.
Yeah, it was cool to see Scotty Scheffler go back-to-back at the Memorial. Scotty is a Texas Longhorn, and we got to do an interview with him about a month and a half ago promoting this year's tournament. And I actually asked him back then about the Cotton Bowl, and he kind of laughed and said, yeah, you guys got us last time, but, maybe we'll get you in the shoe. After he won, Jack Nicklaus was giving him a bad time. He said, be careful with what you say about this game, because he was asked about Texas, Ohio State. So it's kind of funny, guys, to see Scotty Scheffler, the guy wins $4 million in a golf tournament. And in the post-game news conference here in Columbus, they're still asking about the game at the shoe this August.
Because we know what's more important. Right. We know what's more important. Okay, hey, great job, man. You walked around. I guess golf is a sport. You did a good job, too. But, hey, what you think about August 30th?
Yeah, right. All right, so let's throw this out here. All right, so Cardale mentioned Jack Nicklaus, one of the best Buckeyes of all time. And I've always said, if we have this Ohio State Mount Rushmore debate, who are your top 4 Buckeyes, regardless of sport, of all time? For me, Jack Nicklaus, Mr. 18 Majors, has to be on there. There are 3 guys that I think have to be on there. Archie Griffin,
Right.
Mr. Two-Time, has to be on there. And for me, Jesse Owens to win 4 Olympic gold medals right in front of Hitler in his suite in Berlin in 1936.
Yeah.
A black man in front of Hitler in 36. Are you kidding? So to me, those are
he's
the
running
3.
for his life.
Those are the 3.
Right.
Those 3 guys have to be on there, in my opinion. Are you all right with that? And if so, what's the debate for number 4?
I think I'm perfectly fine with that. You know,
Yeah.
when you look at, obviously what Archie did and what he means to the sport, the only 2-time ever Heisman Trophy winner. Then when you look at the fact that Jack Nicklaus is and what he's done and what he's meant to golf, Jesse Owens, that number 4 spot, though, is just so hard up in the air. I go back and I start thinking about, okay, who is the best football player? Well, say Archie. Who's the best basketball player? That's a toss-up. I mean,
tough.
you can go so many different ways. You can say Jerry Lucas.
There you go.
You can say Greg Oden, respectfully.
Mhm.
But I got to go Katie Smith.
Okay.
Katie Smith is my 4th on Mount Rushmore. And I know a lot of people may not agree with that. Some people may. When you come down to just watching her shoot the 3, watching her cross over, just watching her just straight up ball, Katie Smith is certainly one of the best to ever do it in the Buckeye uniform.
Yeah, retired as the leading scorer all time in the Big Ten. I think she's still number 2 on the list. She's very, very high.
Still up there.
I'm good with Katie Smith. What do you think, Cardale?
You know what? I don't know. This is tough for me as far as any 4 because this debate gets misled a little bit because sometimes we think about what guys have done as a Buckeye,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes you put them in those conversations because what they did, just being a Buckeye and after,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
How great was Jack when he was here?
Right.
How great was Jesse when he was here? We know Archie was unbelievable when here. We know how great Katie was when she was here.
Mhm.
So that has always been a conversation for me where you even see former Buckeye athletes go to the next level and don't have as much success as they had
Mhm.
here in Columbus, and then they kind of get washed out of your memory because they didn't have the further success.
Right.
But we're talking about Mount Rushmore as an Ohio State Buckeyes. It's too hard for me, and I can't pick 4.
Okay.
But 2 on there for sure because of their careers at Ohio State.
So you're saying
Katie and Archie.
Katie. Okay,
Katie and
so
Archie.
for me, I go Jerry Lucas as my 4th. I mean, I look at the guy won a championship in 1960 playing alongside John Havlicek and Bobby Knight. He won a gold medal. He won an NBA title afterwards, to Cardale's point. But still, the triple threat, I think, or the triple crown in basketball to win an NCAA, an NBA Finals, and an Olympic gold medal. I think there's only 8 people on there. Magic's on there. Michael's on there. Jerry Lucas is on there. He was a Sportsman of the Year from SI in 1961. So for me, it's Jerry Lucas. I'm all right with the Katie Smith as well. But it's an interesting debate. I do want to now segue, though. We talked about, Texas in this game and Scotty Scheffler. And all right, so let's start talking about this game. Last week, we mentioned the rumors and the reports that Texas was air quotes ducking Ohio State. They wanted to move that game to Sunday night. So this week, on Monday, I was playing golf in the Woody Hayes Classic, and I happened to run into athletic director Ross Bjork, who, by the way, knew about the podcast. So good job on the marketing team. But he came up to me and said, "Hey, I saw the podcast you're doing with Beanie and Cardale." And we were talking. I said, "Hey, is it true about Texas ducking you guys?" And he kind of laughed and he said, "Well, the way the contract's written is the game was scheduled for Saturday. They have to agree to moving it to Sunday. They didn't want to move it to Sunday." And he said, "And to be fair, we have the same rights on our contract next year when we play down there in Texas." And then we kind of laughed and said, "Of course, Texas is going to put you in primetime next year.
Right.
Be ready for that."
Right.
So, all right. Have you heard anything, Cardale? Let's bring back
real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
So
jump
he
in.
answered the question
Yes.
that Texas was indeed ducking him.
Yes.
Without going out and saying it disrespectfully.
Respect.
Texas did make the decision to
Yes.
not switch it to Sunday.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Right. Ross Bjork would never use the word ducking. He's way too classy. We use that in the podcast. So let's bring back our segment, the anonymous text here, Cardale. Do you have anyone? I know you guys are both plugged into network TV.
Yeah.
Do you have anyone who's chattering in that phone right now? Keep them anonymous.
No text, but quote.
Okay.
I ran into a guy speaking in the memorial. Had a great time Friday.
Okay.
Met the memorial in the clubhouse. They're throwing a little shots out there with some friends enjoying some world famous milkshakes.
Yeah, there you go.
Got to go check it out.
All right.
And I ran into one of the analysts and one of the hosts of the Fox Big Noon show.
Oh.
And not the Buckeye.
Okay.
Not the Buckeye.
all right.
So
Okay.
I'm going to still keep it honest. Here, quote.
Okay.
Please tell Buckeye Nation this is not on us. To start there, right?
Yeah.
We wanted this game to be primetime, but since ABC and NBC has that slot, they denied our request.
Oh.
Right? So the next best thing was moving this game to Sunday, which OSU was all for, but Texas denied. They did not want to have one less day to prepare for their following game
Against
versus San Jose State.
Oh,
That is
San Jose
such
State.
baloney right
End quote.
Can you imagine?
And to the credit of the Big Noon Show, Fox Big Noon Show, and that staff. I mean, clearly they want this thing to be primetime as much as possible because their show get the best ratings when things are primetime, and everything. It always looks better when things are primetime.
Sure.
So, Buckeye Nation, get off their backs. It was a lot of moving parts. They wanted it. We wanted it. It was one entity that denied us from this. So let's add that fuel to the fire.
So, Beanie, if Jim Tressel had told you, hey, we need an extra day to watch film on San Jose State.
No. Well, Ohio State, they get the extra day too to prepare for Gremlins.
Yeah,
right.
So, I mean, how much film can you be watching on San Jose State?
Exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous right there. I mean, I get wanting to be prepared. If they would have came out with an excuse saying something like, you know what, our kids, like Cardale said, they have class, and we want to make sure our guys are prepared for class and school requirements, then you understand a little bit more. But when you bring up San Jose State, please, come on.
Less of preparation.
Ain't
But then on the
nobody's
flip side too, you look at what Oregon was able to do to Ohio State a few years back. I think it was 2019, post-COVID or right after, one another, where they came here at a noon game. I think CJ Stroud's first year, where they was able to beat the Buckeyes and things like that. Where it was on a scale of things, it looked like it was hard for them to get up for a primetime noon game. But then you look on the flip side as well, where they played primetime versus Notre Dame. Kyle McCord first start, I think it was,
I believe.
And they didn't look as great. I mean, we got the win, but they didn't look as great.
Yeah, it's a classic game too, by the way.
Yeah, no, that was a great game. Well, you mentioned Kyle McCord and CJ Stroud. Let's talk quarterback right now. So we're going to have Arch Manning coming into the shoe. We know Texas has a starting quarterback. Julian Sayin versus Lincoln Keenholz. All right, guys, what's our lean here as we are in early June? I am team Sayin. I think you brought him in. He was the former #1 player in the country down in Alabama. I think if you bring him in, you thought he was the guy. He needs to be the guy. That's my take on it. What's your take, Cardale? Lincoln or Julian? What's your early lean?
You know what? I still don't have an early lead to either one of these guys, respectfully, for them going through this process right now and only getting through spring ball. I think camp is clearly going to be a big opportunity for clearly both of these guys. But one thing that we fail to realize and to undervalue is this period right now where the coach is not around as much, where you're taking on that ownership of getting your guys together, putting in that extra work.
What is happening right
chemistry.
Now? Tell me what June is like for a quarterback.
All of those things are happening right now where you're taking on that leadership role and you're grabbing guys, hey, let's go throw routes, let's go do this, let's get together and building that chemistry. That is going to be just as much momentum as leaving out of spring ball and going into camp as anything, because they can hit the ground running. So I think those are the critical points both guys need to be focused on right now and starting to develop that chemistry, because those reps are going to be split and limited to get it together with the ones and the twos because they're going through a battle.
This time of year for any football player, when you get into that early June, late May, going into July, this is where you start to separate yourself from the pack. This is an opportunity where you get bigger, stronger, faster, and then you start understanding what it is that you're going to be doing from an assignment perspective. So this is going to be a key time for both of these quarterbacks, and who's going to take the helm, who's going to be, like Cardale just said, that leader in the pack. Right now, all of these guys are working out together at the Woody Hayes, doing those summer workouts and summer conditioning. Now you can start to see, okay, this is a guy we can go to our foxhole with in battle.
And as far as Arch Manning's concerned, I mean, we don't have a ton of film on Arch Manning. We haven't seen a ton of them. We know the hype, and we know that, Quinn Ewers was willing to step off to the side there. So, Cardale, your early read on Arch Manning, do you think he could be as legit as people think he is?
You know what? I think so, from the very limited film that we have versus very superior opponents, lesser opponents, and in the cases that he played in, and then some of the mop-up duties that he's played in. I think the flashes that we have seen of him has been situations where he wanted to go out there and probably do a little bit too much. Probably go out there and show like, oh, I can play at a very high level, because he knew his reps was limited when he stepped in for Quinn when Quinn was dealing with his injuries this past season. So I don't know, but I think what's going to help his transition to being a full-time starter is the experience that he developed over last year. And then clearly having that Manning name, that always helped, because I guarantee you Peyton and Eli and his dad has always groomed him to be in a situation like this, a high-pressure situation where he can walk in and treat this just like any other practice.
Yeah, I do want to get to our next segment in a second, but just circle back. Let's bookend it with the golf here, by the way. Beanie, every time I see you on social, you are keeping the cigar industry in business.
Yes, indeed.
Like, most people smoke a cigar because they had a baby or because they won a championship. Beanie does it because it's Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, 100%. I'm on a golf course and I'm smoking a cigar. Heck, when I wake up in the morning, 9 times out of 10, I'm drinking coffee and smoking a cigar. And that's my thing.
So, all right, if you guys go 18 holes of match play, who's winning that? You, Cardale, Beanie, in a round of golf.
You know, I'm going to give it to Beanie.
Yeah,
just from the conversations that we had about putting together a golf trip. He was like, "Oh yeah, I do golf trips all the time." I'm like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Wait, what?" I thought there was something like, "Hey, we can bond together. Maybe we can do something." The first time, I'm like, "Okay, maybe not."
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it to him by default. Actually, we're going to play together here in a few weeks at the Chris Fields golf outing, the Fields House golf outing. Yep. And I'm looking forward to it, but take it easy.
Yeah, no, definitely will. So just a couple of weeks ago, myself, Joey Galloway, Keith Byers, Orlando Pace, we all took a golf trip down to South Carolina.
Look at that foursome.
Crazy time, crazy golf course. And just say, I didn't win that one. Woo. But if you ever golf with Joey Galloway, just know he's going to put the pressure on you. And he might be a little bit of a cheater at five.
It's Joey Galloway rolling the ball?
Speaking of, I mean, he just named 3 great, well, he named 4 great Buckeyes, including himself. And dating back to that, about a topic that we hit earlier, around Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
How those names didn't make it on
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. Orlando Pace.
That gives me more to even think about now when I'm trying to figure out my other 2 guys on that Mount Rushmore.
Well, there's a guy who's trying to play his way onto Mount Rushmore, wide receiver Jeremiah Smith. Coming up next, we're going to tell you about the huge week he had promotionally, and we're going to talk about the Heisman Trophy odds. Could he actually be the winner as a wide receiver? Stay with us on The Script. Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm Dave Holmes, as always, with Beanie Wells and Cardale Jones. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and Apple Pod, and also follow us on Spotify, and hit us up on social media. All our handles are at The Script OSU. All right, so let's start with a huge week here, guys, for Jeremiah Smith. He is the cover guy on EA Sports College Football 26. Big deal. Now, I know Cardale is barely old enough to have been in one of these games. We'll talk about that later. Beanie was actually on the Atari version of college football.
It feels like it.
Yeah, he's old enough. We'll talk about your guys' ratings in a bit. We're going to have some fun with that. But first off, let's talk Jeremiah Smith's rating. 100. That's the rumor. The rumor is the first 100 guy here. So Cardale, is Jeremiah Smith 100 worthy? Not 99. 100.
You know what?
He's perfect?
To me? Yes. Yes, he is. He deserves 100 rating right out the back. And I remember back in the day when the Bears played the Colts in the Super Bowl, when we first got a glimpse and a taste of Devin Hester on a national level with the Bears, and he housed that thing to the house. And that following Madden, his speed was 100.
First ever.
Yes. And we all went crazy over that. I think what Jeremiah Smith has done as a true freshman at Ohio State, when the stage was at its biggest, I think at least coming out, he deserved to be a 100 overall.
Yeah, Beanie, it's crazy when you think about the hype he had. I mean, there are few athletes like Tiger Woods, LeBron. There are so few athletes that have the hype and somehow exceed the hype. And like Cardale said, for him in his first season to do what he did, and then for Ryan Day to say, let's go win us a national championship, throw it long to Jeremiah. I mean, do you think he's a 100 player?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this was before the season last year, and I said it on one of the shows, and I don't think one of the coaches were pleased that I said it, but he literally was telling me before the season, I said, what do you think about this Jeremiah Smith guy? He said, LeBron James. And I don't know, what do you mean LeBron James? Talking about a guy who is that physically ready right now to make an impact, not can make an impact, will make an impact, LeBron James, just translating into football. But I absolutely love the fact that he's 100. I mean, when you look at the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr., when he was, fourth in the Heisman, he had 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith last year, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. That would have put him in that Heisman conversation already. So, yeah, he's deserving. He does everything well. He's fast. He's physical. He can run routes like a small guy, but with his stature, I mean, he's everything you want out of a football player.
Man, when you think about this kid, man, you go back to the name Marvin Harrison Jr., which he was, I mean, watching him up close, I was just like, this dude is the real deal. And then for Marvin not even having a chance to play with Jeremiah and just to see him in high school and knowing that he was going to be a Buckeye and to make some of the comments he made about him that he was going to be even better than him. And then you look at guys in that room like Emeka Buka and Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis, and the list goes on, and how they speak of this kid. It's mind-blowing. I think that's more deserving than anything itself. And then I think when you talk about a guy like Ryan Day, who's been around college level at the highest level in the NFL, at the highest level in the Super Bowls, and said he's one of the best ever. Those comments from guys like that, I don't take lightly because these are guys who, one, are who's doing it at a very high level, and two, who's seen it at a very high level.
Yeah,
So
and
he's deserving to be.
Ohio State's a program that does make you want to earn your. I mean, you got to lose your black stripe. He's the first guy.
Lost it in a day.
Yeah.
And I remember, listen, I'm going to be honest. I remember I was like, what?
Right.
He should be in freaking math calculus in high school right now. And
Yeah.
you're telling me he lost his black stripe in one day in
Yeah.
spring ball? I'm like,
Yeah.
what could he have done?
Yeah.
He was probably cooking guys. So he probably was killing guys that first day.
So for him to lose that stripe, basically put on the stripe, get a picture, and take the stripe right off is basically. And then for him to be the first true freshman to ever be named Iron Buckeye, which speaks to his work ethic. I mean, Beanie, I guess the way he handles himself is almost as impressive as what he does on the field because it's those little things that separate him from the other guys who are at least in his talent range. I don't think anyone's on his level, but at least in his range.
Yeah, I mean, when you got a guy that is as talented as Jeremiah is, and can do everything that you want out of a football player, not just a wide receiver, out of a football player, but then you add on to the fact that they're still hungry.
Yeah.
They're still wanting to work. He's still wanting to be better. That is scary because there's so many guys that we play with that you've seen that was so good and they just rested on, their talent, rested on whatever they've done the previous year. Not this kid. And that's the wild part is he's not done yet. And what we've already seen is nothing short of amazing. His sky, I mean, his ceiling is the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wild.
And one more thing about Jeremiah Smith, and I don't take things like this lightly. And I say this about a guy also like a Caleb Downs and a Sonny Styles, who we talked about earlier on the show, and Lorenzo Styles as well. Hence the Styles family. Clearly, they've been doing something well in that family, right? Those four names, especially Jeremiah, are more impressive young men than players. How great these guys are as players, how great Jeremiah Smith as a player, he is so much more impressive as a human, as a young man, that he can go out here and win two Heismans in the next 2 years. I'm telling you guys, he is more impressive as a young man than a football player.
Well, Cardale apparently producing the show now because I want to talk Heisman. All right, so he has the fifth best odds right now at 13-1 to win the Heisman. Not surprisingly, the four guys above him are all quarterbacks. So, guys who have won the Heisman as a wide receiver. You go back to Tim Brown at Notre Dame, Desmond Howard at Michigan, Devontae Smith at Alabama, and Travis Hunter at Colorado. So we've seen it happen 4 times. Can Jeremiah Smith be the fifth? And let me preface this one thing here before we get into this. Tim Brown, Desmond Howard were both return specialists too, which had a lot to do with it. Travis Hunter played quarterback too. The versatility had a lot to do with it. So I would argue Devontae Smith is kind of the only pure receiver to actually win it. So while it's easy on a Buckeye podcast and to do everything scarlet color glasses, of course he's going to win the Heisman. It's very unlikely. So, Beanie, do you think he has what it takes? I mean, because you got to get lucky. They probably have to go 12-0. He has to have historic numbers. It is not easy as a receiver.
No, it's not easy at all. And then obviously you add into the fact that he's going to be playing with a new quarterback.
Someone new.
He doesn't have a guy like, a CJ Stroud that's been there or a Will Howard that's already been there and proven at the college football level. He's going into a fresh situation that's going to be a guy that's going to be throwing in the ball. But can he do it? Absolutely. I think when you talk about Ohio State and, how quarterbacks, go out and play in their first year, you look at Ryan Day's success with those guys, even talking about the guy that we had leave last year, Kyle McCord.
Mm-hmm.
He played well when you look at his numbers, breaking it all down. So I think whoever the quarterback is going to play well. And when you got a target like him, they're going to force feed him the ball because he can get you out of a lot of trouble. And he's a dynamic playmaker. So you ask that question, can he? Yes, I think he will be in that discussion come end of the year because he's going to put up incredible numbers. And I think they will exceed what he did last year.
I think his numbers will exceed it last year. But I think when you talk about having a Heisman, a true receiver to be the Heisman Trophy winner, like a Devontae Smith, what he did at Alabama now, guys, this was special.
I mean,
this was special.
Don't get wrapped up in the moment. Don't get wrapped up in the moment.
This was special. I mean, you can look at the Alabama team. You look at that offense. They had every individual national award winner on the offense, from the running back, from the quarterback, from the tight end to the offensive lineman, and the receiver with the Blitnikoff with Devontae Smith. And he was a lot better than all those guys. What he meant to that team and that offense was historical, clearly, and they capped it off with a national title for Buckeyes, but
Yeah.
does Jeremiah Smith have the ability to do these things? Of course he has the ability to do these things. Is it realistic in this day and age for him to get, probably 20 targets, especially with having other guys who's going to demand a lot of attention and going to demand a lot of, plays in their direction? I don't think so. I think the Buckeyes are doing a good job of spreading the ball around. I mean, you look at the emphasis they had this year on bringing guys back like Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis and adding some more depth in the running game just to continue to have more depth and talent around Jeremiah Smith so he's not as big of a workhorse.
Yeah, I mean, I've said from episode 1 on this show that we're going to try to keep it real here. We're not going to say everything's, Ohio State's going to win every game. They're going to win every award. My gut is that he makes it to New York City, no doubt.
For sure.
I don't think he wins. I think he gets there. I think he's on the stage that day, but it's just so hard as a receiver. And like you said, I mean, what if they beat Grambling by 65 points, all right? And he scores 2 touchdowns before half, and he doesn't even play the second half. Those are the things that are going to happen 4 or 5 times this season. So it's not easy.
I'll tell you what, if Urban Meyer was a coach, I remember we played FAMU, scored 76 points. He did not take his starters out in the first half.
Yeah,
He was pouring it on. So if Urban was the coach, he would definitely win the Heisman because he have 600 yards versus Grambling.
Kenny Guyton, first start, he set the record for passing yards. Yeah, all that stuff. Oh, my God. Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's so funny. All right, so let's talk more about this EA College Football 26. All right, so this year, for the first time ever, they have coaches in the game. I don't know if you guys saw the image of Ryan Day, all right? I was not good at art, but I could draw a better Ryan Day. What are they doing to our guy Ryan Day? Have you seen his image?
You know what? Yeah, and for everyone who has seen the image and not seen Ryan Day in person, trust me, he looks a lot better in person.
Yes!
He looks great in person. But I think the emphasis on more of the players than the coaches, right? I think they invested their hard-earned dollars at EA and all the money that game has made on a 25, the previous model, 2025. They invested it in the players and a lot of things you can do now versus the coach. They just pretty much they gave all the coaches, not just Ryan Day, the default skin.
Oh no, it was like
default.
They just tapped into ChatGPT dark beard coach.
Right.
Send.
Exactly.
And that's
man.
Beanie, they did him wrong. They did him
They
wrong.
absolutely did. I mean, they had him almost looking like the Terminator, but the Terminator when he almost got his face ripped off. I mean, it's a little odd looking. I don't agree with that.
They catfished my guy, man.
Right,
They catfished him on the game. Guys, I trust. It's a reverse catfish. He looks a lot better in person.
Yeah, he does look a lot better. All right, so we mentioned Jeremiah Smith got 100 in his game. So we did a little digging because both of you guys were back in the day in these college football games. Beanie, you were a 97, and Cardale, you were also a 9. Oh, you flipped the numbers. A 79. 79. All right, so it's time for our segment, What's Your Beef? Cardale, do you have beef with the fact that you were a 79 in college football?
You know what? I don't have beef because I'm looking back at it. It was the first year me coming out of high school.
Okay.
It was the last year of the game before they revamped it. I was a 79. I think I was like a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. And then I look at some guys of this past year, NCAA 25, and their first years, and they all this highly recruited guys. And I see Julian saying he was an 80. So I'm like, I'm a 70. I was a 70 now.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
It's not bad.
I get it compared. So, no, and then also a side note, I drop over 100 points with a guy who was a 79 overall when I put myself in that game. Don't ask me against the opponent, but I had some great stats. And I tell guys all the time when we played in my dorm, hey, I don't know what my overall is on your system, but I'm a 99 on my,
Come play at my
system.
place.
Right. Yeah, I'm a 99, guys. It's so fast.
I got to ask this question, though. Was it at the hospital when you were visiting a kid that you possibly put yourself in this game and scored over 100 points? Was that the moment?
That's on Cardale's tweet. That's a Hall of Fame tweet from Cardale.
You know what? It was. But you know what they say now? A win is a win. A win is a win. A win is a win.
Beanie, you all right with you being a 97, or do you think you're a 98?
No, I love the 97.
Okay.
Like back then, I couldn't wait for the NCAA to come out. And that year that I was a 97, I don't know if you remember, Cardale, you could be an impact player, so you start glowing.
Yeah.
I was glowing on that game, and I was getting busy on that video game.
It was glowing right when the snap started.
Right.
Like, yeah. I
You see
remember.
Beanie pulsing in the backfield. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Time.
Well, we had a fun week this week for recruiting, both football and basketball. Big news to report here. Coming up next on The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeye. Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Make sure you subscribe to us on Apple Podcast and YouTube, and follow us on Spotify, and also hit us up on social media at The Script OSU. I joked earlier in the show that I block people with negative comments. I've never blocked anyone on social. Bring the hate, bring the kind comments as well. We'll bring it all on. All right, let's talk about college football recruiting. The Buckeyes hosting some big names over the weekend. Felix Ojo, a 5-star tackle from Texas. Xavier Griffin, a 5-star linebacker from Georgia. Right now, they're crystal ball to Bama and Texas. So the Buckeyes still in the mix. All right, so Cardale, let me start with you. The recruiting pitch when you come. If you're Ohio State, are we pitching national titles? Are we pitching NIL? Are we pitching NFL success? What's that recruiting pitch look like if you're trying to land these 5 stars?
I mean, I'm pitching everything you don't see. I mean, you see the national titles, you see the NIL, you see the 100,000 plus each home game, you see the prime time, you see all of that stuff. I'm telling you what it's like to be a Buckeye in everyday life when it comes to playing at a university like this, and not just saying being a star player. I'm just talking about the perks you get, the advantages you get, the high class education experience that you're going to get playing and being on campus, and then outside of these guys. We're trying to expose them to something different that they're not seeing in Georgia or Texas or UGA or with the Longhorns. And I think that's what I'm hitting on hard because for me, and hopefully my kids are lucky enough to be in that position one day to get recruited by major universities. I want to see the things that you typically don't see when you turn on the TV on Saturday.
Yeah, Felix Ojo said afterwards that he used the word family. He said the most impressive thing about Ohio State was that it felt like a family vibe, which is Beanie, what Cardale's speaking to, the things that you don't see on the field. And I know they talk about the brotherhood. A lot of people think that's a sales pitch. The guys on the inside say that's a real thing.
No, it is, without question. I mean, obviously, you can talk about the NIL or the NFL success, but like Cardale said, when you go back and you look at guys after their careers are done, I think that's more important. You can go to the National Football League, drafted high from just about anywhere. You're going to have a chance to win a national championship at Georgia, at Alabama. But when you're at Ohio State, when you get this experience to be a part of this brotherhood, and then once your playing days are over, are you still going to be respected at that university? Are you still going to have those relationships built at that university that could lead to so much success off the football field? I think that's one of the bigger things that you really have to factor into when you're being recruited. I'd say the same thing to guys when they would ask me, hey, well, what should I look for in an agent? Well, you look for what can someone do for you once your playing days are over? Because when your name is hot and you're being recruited, everybody's telling you all these greatest things.
Anyone can sell that athlete.
Exactly.
Yeah, that point is easy. And Beanie hit the nail on the head when you talk about like the brotherhood and the things, the life after football. If that's the day after you're done with Ohio State, or that's 10 plus years in the National Football League, whatever the case may be. I had these conversations with friends who played at I'm not gonna name university, other major universities.
Name them universities.
One of them starts with Alabama. Yeah.
Well, I had these conversations with former teammates and friends who played at these other universities, these major universities whose brand recognition is up there just like Ohio State. And we don't share the same experiences when we talk about life after football. We don't share the same experience when we talk about going back to the facility or going to home games or just walking around your college town. And I'm not just talking about the experience because I was a quarterback here once upon a time. I'm talking about the experience that the walk-ons had here, right? I was just at a golf outing for Braxton Miller Foundation yesterday, and we had a number of walk-on guys that we played with, and you should have saw the engagement they was having with the people who was at these golf outings. So those type of real-life things a place like Ohio State can set you up for or position you for when you talk about life after football.
Yeah, when your playing days are done, you can get on the course with Orlando Pace, Keith Byers, Joey Galloway, and Beanie Wells.
Yeah,
My goodness. So, Beanie, I want to ask you, since we're talking recruiting, you've told me a story before. I want you to tell it now. You were originally thinking about going to USC during the Pete Carroll era. Beanie was a top talent in the country. What happened out there with Pete Carroll and USC?
So it wasn't like I was thinking, like,
He was already sold.
I was sold.
So, hey, called him, Mom, I'm not coming back home.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what happened that trip?
So it was crazy. I'm a young kid. I'm from Akron. I had never been, I've been outside of Ohio, but I'd never been on the West Coast. I get to California. This is the point in time where Pete Carroll, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart, Dwayne Jarrett, they run the town. Those are the guys. There was no pro football team in LA at this time. And, they showed me an experience that any 17-year-old kid would adore and dream to be a part of.
Of course.
Showed me an experience. Keep going.
So I'm in Malibu at the time. I'm sitting with Coach Carroll, and we're sitting there eating breakfast, and I'm like, it's sold. I'm going here. And mind you, I'm committed to Ohio State at the time. And he says, so what are you going to do with the Buckeyes? And, I'm going to call and tell them I can't go there. But first I need to call and tell my mom and dad that I'm coming here. He said, all right, great. Hands me his phone. Call my mom up. she doesn't answer the phone. My dad picks up her phone. Hey, Pops, I'm committing to USC. I'm no longer going to Ohio State. And he's like, oh, are you serious? Like, has excitement in his voice, but I can kind of sense some kind of sarcasm there. And then he chuckles and laughs. Hey, I'm gonna put you on the phone with your mom. I get on the phone with my mom, and she has this tone in her voice. She said, well, pick Coach Carroll on the phone. And Coach Carroll gets the phone, and all I remember is just his face and his whole demeanor changing. And hangs up the phone. I was like, yeah. I go, well, she said get you on a plane and get you back to Ohio. And that was the end of my commitment to USC right there, because I was sold. I was going.
Yeah.
I mean, the glitz, the glam, everything that LA had to offer, I was a part of for that 2-day experience.
Yeah.
And my mom shut Coach Carroll down. And thank God she did. I think I made the right decision going.
You know that's so funny that, is in Southern California, they got you all the way up in Malibu.
Right, exactly.
I never took a visit out to USC, but if you'd have told me that story, at least I would have took a visit.
It took me to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles in a place I shall not mention, and also in Malibu.
I love that. Yes. That's a good time. So let's talk Buckeye basketball here for a minute. Miles Hero, the younger brother of Tyler Hero in the NBA, is committed now to Ohio State. He's a 3-star guy. That's a big name, at least with the Hero family. So I think being a college basketball coach right now, guys, is the worst gig on campus because you basically have to rebuild the entire roster every year.
Yeah.
I mean, you retain like 3 or 4 players. So, all right, let's throw this question out there. Ohio State basketball rebuilding here with Jake Diebler. Am I a nut? Our segment here. Am I a nut? Or should Ohio State basketball be a top 25 team year in and year out? Not a national title team, but a top 25 team.
I think that's more than realistic expectations, and I think within that program, the expectations is even higher with Coach Diebler going into his first full offseason and really having an opportunity to put his hands on and build his roster the way he will want to build it and what he see best fit for the play style he want to play. I think Hero is going to be a great addition. You look at what his brother was. His brother was an overachiever, and it is an overachiever.
Right.
I mean, you go back to his, the bubble when he really kind of his coming out party and some of the things he's able to do, and he's going to get ready to sign a huge deal here. I guarantee you his brother come from that same pedigree. If not, Coach Diebler probably wouldn't have recruited the kid.
Beanie, you were on campus the last time kind of that Ohio State had a national title contending football and basketball team at the same time. You were there during that glory era when it was you guys in Florida. There's only a couple schools that could do it both. What was it like when you had both programs buzzing like you were?
Oh, it was different. It was such a good feeling. You knew at Ohio State you were getting top-tier football, top-tier basketball. This is, you go back, we had Greg Oden, Mike Conley, Daquan Cook, Dave Lighty, a bunch of guys that were just dogs on the basketball court and dogs on the football field. And we kind of just fed off each other. And that's what we wanted. We wanted Ohio State to be this big powerhouse school, not just known for basketball, not just known for football, but being great at both of those sports. And, anytime you're a respected university and you got brand recognition like Ohio State, nothing's better than when both of those top tier programs are exceeding. And right now, obviously, we want to get back to that point, and I think we most certainly will. But that was a glory time in Ohio State history because, watching Greg Oden walk on campus and, living in dorms that were right across from Mike Conley, it was a crazy experience. And now watching the success that some of these guys have had at the next level is incredible.
Mike Conley, he can pay the bills, right? He's doing
I think he's still playing fairly okay. Fairly okay.
Yeah, so I played golf with Mike Conley one time. We got paired. It was right after he signed the biggest contract in NBA history. About a hole and a half. Me being like, both my parents were teachers, like middle class. I mean, I asked him about the money for like 15 straight minutes. At some point, just like, can we just play some golf? I was so infatuated with. I'm like, so how many country clubs are you in? Like, what kind of car are you driving? I was like this little kid just pestering, but
What a question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Your best golf score and your worst golf score.
Ooh.
Same for you, Cardale.
All
right, that worst first, please.
All right. So my worst golf score when I first started playing in 8th grade, I shot a 132. Was my first round out. So that would be 66 on each 9. And that was after taking lessons for about 6 weeks. My best round ever is 67, which was 3 under on a par 70. I'm a 5 handicap right now, so I normally shoot like 77, 78.
So he's bragging at this point. It's not even fun.
No, but 67 is my low.
Okay. No, so I only play in scrambles, but when I do play leisurely, I only play 9, though. I only have the discipline to play 9. And my best, I would say, I was at Coldstream in Cincinnati. After 9, I was 6 over.
Okay.
So
All right.
What do you shoot nowadays, Beanie?
Yeah, what are you shooting?
I mean, you're going on golf trips with Heisman Trophy finalists.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the day of the week.
Okay.
I mean, it could be anywhere from 105, or I can shoot a nice, I don't know, 90. It just depends on the day of the week. My worst golf score, though, is one that I didn't even record. It was probably like 150.
Yeah,
I
scoring.
Here's the thing, though.
And that was 3 years ago.
If Beanie shoots 150 or he shoots 90, either way, cigar at the end of the round. Victory,
no
no matter
what.
And that'll do it for us here on episode 2 of The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Follow us on social at The Script OSU. Subscribe, YouTube, Apple Pods, or follow us on Spotify. We'll see you back here next week for episode 3.